It was supposed to be a beautiful wedding day, filled with love and joy. But when the groom's father, a man with a rich history and a bold presence, arrived, the room erupted in laughter. The guests couldn't help but whisper about his unexpected appearance, dressed differently, with a confidence that seemed out of place. The groom's father, a proud and dignified black man, had been a subject of whispers, a symbol of judgment before the day even truly began. But what happened next left everyone in stunned silence. What could this man possibly do to turn the tables? As the wedding continued, the moment of reckoning came, and suddenly, the laughs faded away. Stay tuned to find out how the unexpected gift he brought not only changed the atmosphere, but also silenced the room in a way no one could have predicted. As the wedding reception buzzed with chatter, the groom, a young man full of optimism and love, was caught between two worlds. On one hand, he adored his father. His strength, wisdom, and unwavering support had shaped him into the man he was. On the other hand, his father's presence at this fancy gathering seemed to clash with the expectations of the elite guests surrounding them. Most of them didn't know the groom's father, nor did they understand the powerful bond they shared. He wasn't just a father, he was a survivor, someone who had fought through struggles that many could never imagine. Yet, all the guests saw was someone they deemed out of place. The groom tried to ignore the uncomfortable glances, but deep down, he could feel the tension rising. He couldn't shake the feeling that his father's arrival had stirred something that would soon boil over. And what happened next? Well, it would shock everyone. The guests continued to whisper behind their glasses of champagne, casting sidelong glances at the groom's father, who stood tall by the edge of the room, seemingly unfazed. But the groom could feel his heart racing. He had always known his father didn't belong in this world of wealth and high society, but that didn't make it any easier. The bride's family, particularly her mother, had never been shy about their feelings. They had expected someone more refined, someone who could blend seamlessly into their world. They had even hinted at their disappointment when they first met the groom's father. As the evening went on, the tension grew palpable. The groom's best friend, Aaron, leaned in with a worried look. "Is everything okay?" he asked, noticing the groom's unease. The groom nodded, but in his gut, he felt a storm brewing. And then, out of nowhere, the groom's father stood up and made his way toward the center of the room, a large, mysterious package in his hands. The murmurs grew louder, and all eyes followed him. No one knew what to expect. The groom's father wasn't a man of many words, and his unpredictable moves only added to the intrigue. The bride's family exchanged nervous glances, wondering what he could possibly be doing now. The tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. Was this going to be another awkward moment that everyone would talk about for weeks? Or was something about to happen that would leave them speechless? The room fell into an eerie silence as the groom's father slowly approached the front, the heavy package in his hands catching everyone's eye. The groom's stomach churned, heart pounding as he watched his father's steady, purposeful movements. The guests were watching, waiting for some sort of dramatic moment, a spectacle that would either humiliate them or elevate the situation. It felt like the air itself was holding its breath. The bride's mother, standing with her arms crossed, shot a quick glance at her husband, her disapproval clear. The groom could see her face hardening, her patience wearing thin. His father, however, wasn't flinching. He placed the package on the table at the center of the room, the eyes of the entire gathering fixed on it. "What is he doing?" someone whispered, but no one dared to speak louder. The tension had reached a boiling point. The groom could feel his palms sweating. This wasn't the kind of attention his father had ever wanted. This wasn't the kind of attention anyone had hoped for. He glanced nervously at his bride, her face pale, unsure of how to react. His father stood before the package, taking a deep breath as if preparing himself for something monumental. The room was so quiet, you could hear a pin drop. Then, in a calm, measured voice, he spoke, his words cutting through the stillness. "This is for my son." A collective breath was held. What could it possibly be? The groom couldn't fathom what his father was about to do, but in his gut, he knew this moment would change everything. And the worst part, he wasn't sure if it was going to be for better or for worse. As the groom's father spoke those words, the tension in the room seemed to reach its peak. Everyone was on edge, unsure of what would come next. The groom's heart raced, his mind a whirlwind of thoughts. He couldn't quite make sense of what was happening, but he knew this moment was about to define everything. His father, however, remained composed, his eyes locked on the package in front of him. The bride's mother shifted uncomfortably, clearly waiting for the reveal, her impatience growing with each passing second. Without saying another word, the groom's father reached for the package, slowly unwrapping it. The guests leaned forward, their curiosity reaching a fever pitch. Inside the package, there was something unexpected, an old weathered box. It looked ancient, far older than anything anyone in that room had ever seen. The moment the box was fully exposed, the room went completely still. Even the groom's breath caught in his throat. His father hadn't just brought any gift. This was something far more personal, something far more significant. The groom's father took another deep breath, and for a moment he hesitated. A subtle shift in his demeanor made the guests uneasy. They could feel the weight of the moment, but none of them could quite grasp what it meant. He placed the box on the table and slowly began to open it. As the lid creaked open, a gasp ran through the crowd. Inside, wrapped in soft velvet, was a faded photograph. The groom's father gently lifted it, holding it up for all to see. The room remained frozen, waiting for the next piece of the puzzle. The photograph was of the groom's mother, a woman none of the guests had ever met, but someone they had heard about in hushed whispers. The groom's mother, who had passed away years ago, was known to have had a mysterious past, one that no one was ever willing to speak about. The bride's family exchanged confused glances, but the groom's father wasn't done yet. He lifted the photo and slowly turned it around to reveal something else, an inscription on the back. "For my son, when the time is right." The room went quiet again. No one spoke, but the air felt thick with questions, with shock, and with a new layer of uncertainty. What was this about? Why was this moment so important? And most of all, what had the groom's father been holding on to all these years? The silence in the room grew heavier as the groom's father carefully placed the photograph back into the box. The guests, now completely captivated by the unfolding scene, exchanged nervous glances. The groom's mind was racing, trying to piece together the significance of the photograph, his mother, and the cryptic words on the back. He'd always wondered about her past, about the mysteries surrounding her death, but he'd never dared to ask. Now, standing before him, was a key that might finally unlock those secrets. The groom's father looked directly at him, his eyes filled with an emotion the groom couldn't quite place. For the first time that evening, the tension in his father's face softened. "Son," his father began, his voice steady but filled with unspoken emotion. "Your mother's story, there's more to it than you know. This is for you to understand, when you're ready." The groom's breath caught. What was his father saying? Was this the moment his entire life had been leading up to? Before he could ask another question, his father opened the box once more and pulled out something else, an old, delicate key. The key was to a place the groom had never heard of, but the weight of it felt oddly familiar. "It's time you knew the truth," his father said. "The key opens a chest I've kept hidden away for years. It holds the answers to everything you've been wondering about your mother, and your heritage, the legacy you've been kept from." A wave of shock and disbelief washed over the groom. His mind was swirling with questions. Why hadn't his father told him this sooner? What was the legacy? What kind of secrets was his mother hiding? As the groom's father passed the key into his hand, he whispered, "You'll understand soon enough. But be prepared. Not everything is as it seems." Just as the groom was about to speak, a sharp voice cut through the room. "That key, it's not just his, is it?" The bride's mother spoke, her voice trembling. Her eyes were wide with a mix of realization and fear. "You never told him the full story, did you?"